power session here for everyone. I hope you're having a good week, and thank you for tuning in here, checking out my art. This is my piece called Dragon's Fight, and it's sort of a combination of a number of artistic movements and crafts, I guess, that I've been studying the past 3 years, I would say, that I started on the plastic arts. But anyhow, this is a combination of abstract expressionism along with my study in calligraphy strokes, and of course parametric design, which is a style and school of thought in architecture that's been taken off. And I started out as an architect in high school, and then I dropped out because we had to start using computers and go from using the drafting tables, and that to me was the whole loss. Sometimes I feel like I got into architecture because ideally I just wanted to get good at drawing and making art, because I knew I was bad at it. But I always admired people's ability to draw figuratively mostly. So I got into architecture. I figured, hey, I'm using rulers, at least I'll be able to draw something, a straight line, at least, right? But when I took architectural drawing, lo and behold, just the whole fact that I was carving an image out of a plain piece of paper, making it into a 2D, 3D image. I think the 3D like plan view for whenever we did like floor plans in architecture class, this is years ago. My favorite view to work on was literally the side views where there was a 2D or 3D dimension to it, where you could see the image pop out of the flat surface, right? And I remember that day, I was like, what? So literally, if you do an exercise where just draw a cube, for example, you'll see that effect play out a little bit if you let your eyes really dive in, and all of a sudden the piece of paper will just disappear, and all you see is the 2D image popping out. And that effect alone really stood with me for a number of years. And for some reason, I don't know what really took over my obsession with the fact that I just could never be good at computers, could never be good at drawing, could never be good at any of these things that I was so attracted into. Definitely some of the things I'm working on. My therapist says, too much negative thinking. And there's some truth to that, but there's also truth in aspire for greater challenges, right? Even though you ultimately might not succeed, the journey itself becomes one of the most treasured things that you sort of abide by as a creative person in nature, right? And it seems wishy-washy. That's part of the reason why I never really fell into the. To me, it sometimes can be a trap when you're just super positive all the time. Of course, there are people that are naturally very positive people, and they're so healed and grounded naturally for whatever reason. So you really can't judge people for having that sort of peace in them. And I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that at all. But if you consider yourself a quote unquote pessimist or realist, whatever you want to use to categorize the subject, but it's not necessarily being a negative person all the time either. I guess it's a certain level of comfort that you actually attain in sitting with the peace that something might not be what it is that you intend to be. And when you're used to that, you can be zen about it. Some people just can't interpret that, right? And there is a part of our nature that we're healing creatures. We're here to take something that could be damaged and make it better, or to fix things, right? So transformation is a natural part of our being. But essentially, transformation can be rooted in many different aspects of our reality, whether you live for the negative or the positive, right? And that, my friend, is what I'm talking about. It's hard. You may never know what makes you decide the things that lead you to this, right? The reason why I love this particular piece so much is because of that. It's a summation of all of my efforts as an artist in general, someone who pursues to be creative. It's like me going back in time, myself, my own being, and then just also parts of recent history, right? I brought up the whole computer thing. I literally just couldn't see myself being attracted to sitting in front of a computer screen the entire day. And I was right at that pinnacle of society where everything was transitioning, the desktop revolution to the laptop and all of that, whatever you want to call it. I was there. And I guess you could say that a part of the fact that I haven't quote unquote succeeded in life, mainly financially, I say that, is because I didn't accept that notion. There are some people that today, they actually support that. The whole light movement, where you're doing light therapy, right? They support that notion. In fact, one of the gurus that I've been following recently, of course, Mr. Rubin there, I was actually doing a lot of this art on the iPad. If you browse through my YouTube, you'll see a lot of my early works was on the iPad, because I also used it as a training ground, because I knew paint and art was so expensive. To me, it was because I also just didn't have that extra funds all the time. When I got into this, I was kind of being a stay-at-home dad and was only working part-time, and the little money I had was to pay my debt and bills, and sadly enough, not even contribute to the household. But raising the kids was definitely a sacrifice in itself and a privilege, but I had to be very limited with my resources. So when I got into doing art and trying to carve things with color and make things with just the spectrum itself, I started on the iPad, and that for some reason was manageable. I could stare at that screen for a couple hours, but then eventually, because my kids were turning into little iPad fiends, Daddy had to get off the iPad. No, I was reading up on the whole light therapy thing, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start making art on actual canvas, on paper. And here I am. I would have never been doing something like this a couple of years back. So it's the idea of the discomfort, the unknown, not necessarily knowing exactly what you need to do, not necessarily having to be positive or negative for that matter either, but just accepting every single step of the way and being curious. I find that one of the best parts about being an artist is the fact that you have to cultivate your curiosity at all times. That is the fire at all. You can be passionate about anything, but if you're not curious enough to push it further, to see where it goes, to dive into the unknown constantly, it dissipates. It just fades away. And if you need to take time for yourself to see what else needs to be done, like recently I've gone through a period where I just dropped. I couldn't make anything. Sometimes you need to sit with that. You can't really force that, right? You can't really force something that is meant to be natural. So I guess that's my whole take with that segment. I'm gonna try to focus in, try to get some more of this done. Put on some music. I don't know why my music faded. If you have any questions at all, feel free to drop a comment. I do post a live after, so your comment will show up and I will reply. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask. And of course, support is always appreciated.
Esto es México. Este es el Caribe. Este es el Caribe mexicano. Dos mundos llenos de emociones. Aguas turquesas y playas de arena blanca. Una cultura mallanida. Cenotes impresionantes. Islas exóticas. Imponentes ríos y cavernas subterráneas. Hermosas lagunas. Selvas tropicales. Coloridos arrecifes. Pueblos pintorescos y majestuosos sitios arqueológicos. En donde dos mundos se funden en una sola alma. Sincronizados en un mismo ritmo con escenarios vibrantes. Esto es el Caribe mexicano. Lo mejor de dos mundos.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate the fans.